Hi guys, welcome back to Parm Fam Custom Woodworking. I'm Matt, and today we're doing our second installment of the shop upgrades. So in the first one, we did some cleanup, did some rearranging. We put the OSB and the plastic on the walls, and got the OSB up. And now in the second one, what we did is we're going to go ahead and put the supports in the ceiling to go from the ceiling joist to the rafter, and that's going to give us a little extra support in there to hold up the OSB we're going to put on there and the blown-in insulation. We also, in this video, we're going to go ahead and put tie back in across the top of the ridge beams on the top of the walls to cover that in so we can blow insulation right up to that point. And then we're going to run that back up through the rafters like a rafter mate would be. That way we can get airflow through there and still put blowing in insulation right in and not have it go out through there. And then we're going to put OSB on the ceiling. And so we'll get that stuff all set up and then let's go and get her done. All right, guys. So this is the joist I chose. I just went with A1. I just got my line on here. I just took my speed square and I put it up here. Rotated it out to 30 degrees, but you line it up with 30 right here on the top of the joist. And then I made my mark. And it gave me this mark here, doubled up there. If you have one of these, which is a digital angle finder, usually if you have it flat like this, it's going to give you 0 degrees. I don't know if it'll pick it up or not, but it'll give you 0 degrees on the screen. And then if you turn it down, it's going to come out with 60 on this angle because it's referencing a different surface. So there it gives us 60 degrees, which on a miter saw is going to equate out to 30 degrees. They have both of them on there, but when you go on your miter saw, it's going to show you 90 degrees at straight out. So if this was your board on the miter saw, it's going to, 90 degrees is going to be your straight cut right across it. So then you come back to 60, which is going to give you your 30 degree angle, and that will give you your right cut on your miter saw if you're cutting it this way. But this across here would be a 30 degree cut on your miter saw. So anyway, that's how we line it up at 30 degrees. Then I just took my level. I leveled it up here, got it lined up this way, and then I just made my mark on my rafter up above. Took a measurement from the top of the rafter down to the bottom of the joist, and that gave me my length, which turned out to be about 32 inches. The top angle up here, I just took my support that I had cut, and I dadoed it out a little bit on this end. I put it in where I wanted it, set it up to the top, and then I traced the line through the top of the rafter, and then that gave me my top angle, which is about 10 degrees up there. So then I just took it back down to my miter saw, set my depth gauge, and cut this out on both ends. And that way it allows it to overlap and set right in here nicely. And it'll give me a nice surface to screw through, screw it all together. It gives me a better bonding point because there's more surface touching area. And it makes it a little stronger. So yeah, it sets in just like that. That on the top as well. I get her up there tight. Matches up my angles. So now I just gotta go ahead and cut one for every rafter and get them put in. Alright guys, so when we get back down here to the miter saw, I have my angle set up at 30 degrees on here, and that's gonna let me cut this bottom angle out. Well, yeah, the bottom angle to the joist, the ceiling joist. So I'll put it in here. I'll set it up, and I already have my depth gauge over here set. So I just flip this lever up. Now almost every miter saw, this little lever, every miter saw has one. Some of them are a little bit different. I have this old DeWalt, and this is how it works. So you set that, and then you adjust this screw. You adjust this set screw right here to the depth stop, and that allows it to stop at whatever height you want. So what it does, it allows me to, my blade will stop right here, which will cut out about 1 inch of that support. And since I use rough cut, they're about 2 inches thick, and that's what I want. So once I cut that out of here, I'm just going to make repeated cuts over and over again on here to get what I want. But to make sure I can get the whole width of it, because if I left it right here, when I went back to inch, it's going to leave a bigger section on the back side of here. So what I need to do is I put a stop in behind my material like this. Put a stop in behind my material, which is just a piece of the cut off 2x4. I put it against my stop back here with a clamp to hold it in place. It keeps it nice and secure. I can hold this right up against it, and I can move it back and forth, and that's going to give me my complete cut rip out here. So I'll go ahead and show you how that works. When I was talking before about how you could cut this out, and I come down with a miter saw, and you make several cuts over and over again, and then beat it out with a hammer. So I hear you. You say, Matt, I don't have a miter saw. How do I do it if I don't have a miter saw? So let me show you. So you grab your handy dandy piece of wood here, you bring it over to your bench, and then there's a couple different options you can do. You can clamp it down to here if you want. That way it keeps it from wandering on you. If you don't have clamps, it's no big worry. You can do it without the clamps. So you put your speed square on here. I'll put some of that stuff down in the description if you guys want to pick it up. But you set up your circular saw. So how we go about cutting this without having a miter saw? You get yourself a circular saw. You set the guard on the bottom. On the back side here's a little lever. You push this up and down. It lets that guard go up and down. You set that. You move this guard up. You set your tape measure in there. Or you can do a speed square. Either one. But you put your tape measure in there. Get it to 1 inch height. And then that'll set up your height that you want. So we only want to cut down 1 inch in here, halfway through it. It might be 3/4 of an inch on yours, depending on how you're doing it. You want to cut down that halfway through it, and then just make several cuts on here, and then you can pound it out. So from the edge of the blade to the side of the guard is usually 1.5 inches. So you take your thing, you have your line on here where you want to cut it out at. You take your tape measure. You line it up on here, you figure out what it is, you go up 1.5 inches beyond that point. So I've got mine at 7 3/4, and I go up to 9 1/4. That gives me my 1.5 inches. And that compensates for the edge of the blade to the blade guard. And then you take your speed square, you line it up on here, you get it where you want it. And you can either hold it, just hold it by your hand, or you can clamp it. Either way will work, but the clamp does secure it in place. Holds it there a little better. And then you just take your circular saw and you make repeated cuts on here over and over again. So there's one, and then do it just like we did on the miter saw. We'll just do it over and over and over again until we get to the end of it, and then we can chip it out. So you can't get kicked back. If you twist the blade, you're going too fast or whatever. So you go to the other side. And so that's basically the same effect as you have with the miter saw. Then you just chip them out of there. And then you can clean it back up a little bit more with your chisel. And there. That's how you can do it with a circular saw. If you don't have a miter saw, it gives you another option. Alright guys, so I don't know why I kept doing that. I have a bandsaw. So I went down to the store. I couldn't find my 1/2 inch blade. I went down, got a 1/2 inch blade, put my 1/2 inch blade in here, got it all set up. I set up this Jenga fence. I haven't ran it on this. I tried it with a level. It worked all right with that. It had a little bit of a tip to it. So I tried this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over to the miter saw, cut my depth in here, and I'll cut it 1 inch. As I said, 1 inch. Cut my 1 inch up. It's going to overlap a little bit, but that's all right, and it drops these right out and makes them actually pretty nice. So I'm gonna run this over to the miter saw, get my first cuts in there, and I'll show you how it works on the bandsaw. All right, so I got those relief cuts in there, so I know how to bring it up, where to bring it up to. Now I'll go ahead and cut these on the bandsaw and see how it works. So yeah, takes out my 1 inch chunk, gives me my overlay, nice and flat, gives me my overlap on either side. It's a beaut. I'll go ahead and get these finished up, and I'll bring it back when we start installing them. Welcome back. So what we got? All right, so I got these all cut up, got them all done. As you can see down through, I've got some put in already. Some of them are staggered because I changed the heights on them a little bit. All they do to go in, you got your ship lat or your lap joint on it. Just goes in. You just get it to the height you want it, where it's going to match up to both ones and touch, like so, and then just send the screws home. And that's it. That's all I do to install these. I have just a few more to go, and then this side will be done for these supports, and then I'll do the other side either later tonight or tomorrow. And then I'll bring it back when I'm done with that. I gotta trim up a few things on the bottom side of the joist here to get them all flush. And then we'll be going to get the plastic up and get the OSB on. So those are the next steps. So I'll bring it back once we get going into there. So what we're doing today, I have some Tyvek. It's 3 feet. The roll was like 90 feet long or 100 feet long by 3 feet tall. And I just took it and I cut it down into 26-inch wide sections by 3 feet long. And what I'm going to use these for is they're going to go, put them up in the edge of the rafter like that. So basically what it is I'm nailing it across this way, up, and then back up this way. And that way I'm going to put blown in insulation in the walls and blow it up into the top of it. Up there, you're going to blow it up in, and then that Tyvek goes across the top of those joists, and that's going to hold the insulation in that way. And then when I put my ceiling on, my ceiling's going to go up, and then I can blow insulation in, and I can get it about 10 inches deep if I want. And that'll keep it from going back down that eave. And so I can still get my airflow up to my center, up to my roof, and get the peak up there. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to go ahead and put in these down through here. I'll give you an idea. I'll try and take you up there while I'm putting one in so you can kind of see how it goes in. And then I'll go ahead and get the rest of them put in, and then we'll move on to the next step. So you guys are looking down from the roof onto the side of the wall right here, onto the top of it. So all I'm going to do is take this Tyvek, and I'm going to put it out through the hole, and I'm going to nail it in the top. Trying to get it pretty level with the edge, and then leave enough on either side so I have a lip to nail to when I put it in there, staple to when I get it up there. I'll take my utility knife, just trim it a little bit. And allow it to lay back into the corner underneath the rafter. Lay it out across there. Trim this side up too. That allows me to lay this one in here. I want to staple it in here pretty well, because what it's going to do is it's going to hold the insulation from blowing up from the wall up to the cavity. And then I just take this, bring it up in here, tack it in like that, turn it around this way, and then tack it in, trim it right here so it'll lay down. Then I'm going to stretch it across. And so what that does is it leaves me an air pocket through the top here. The air will still come in here, and it'll go up the roof and out the ridge vent. It'll circulate the air through here. It'll keep it from getting condensation and issues and problems in here. So as you can see what I did, I just stapled it right across this front edge right here. Stapled it down pretty good. Brought it up tight, stapled it across the back side, and then I trimmed the edges in here a little bit so it'd lay down in here. And then I can blow my insulation in. And so then when I do my blowing in insulation, it'll come right down through here, and it'll give me my 8 to 10 inches of room in here to keep it without it going down in there. So that's why I did that. I'm gonna go ahead and do that on the rest of them. So that's why I did them like that. You can see I've got 4 up here started already. I got this one in, and then I'll go ahead and get the rest of them in. And then, so once I go ahead and get the rest of these in up here, then I'll bring it back and we'll go to the next step. All right, so I got them all up, with the exception of the one. I have a bird nest in one spot. It's got little baby birds in it, so I'm going to wait a little bit and we'll get that one put up. In the meantime, we'll finish up some of the other stuff, supports in the ceiling, and get that all set and ready to go. But I'm gonna end here for tonight. I'll show you what we have done. So we got all the rafter mate, I guess, kind of like things put in on this side. I blocked most of the other side. So most of this other side has blocks. I have just 2 vents on this side. I have this one, and then there's that one. That's the one with the baby bird nest in it. So I'm gonna let it ride for a little bit, and then I'll come back. But we got all the other angled supports up in the ceiling up here, right here, and here. They're all on this side. They're all done. We'll get that done. I still have to put a ledger support on the top of the beam up there, just so I can nail the OSB to it when it goes in. So I have a nailer on there. So I put one up there, and one on this side, and then just trim the center of these. These right here, you can see some of them hang down a little bit. I gotta trim those off. Put the plastic up. We get the plastic up there, and then we'll be ready with the OSB. Then we get a sheetrock lift to do that. I just throw it on there, run it up. That makes it pretty easy. So, all right. Hey guys. So I'm doing a quick update right now. I'm in the process of getting this shop worked on, getting the updates done. So you saw we'd gotten the walls done, and now we're working on a ceiling. So I went ahead and I got all the angle supports in the ceilings. I got all the angle supports up in the ceilings all done and put in. They're all up there and taken care of. So what we're working on right now is I just got the plastic up today. So I'm gonna flip it. So what you can see is I've got plastic up in the ceiling here. You can see the angle supports up here. I put these in all of them just to add in some extra support on those trusses, on the ceiling joists across there. So I got all the plastic up. I've got a couple access ports cut in here. I've got one here, and I've got one right above the garage doors right here. So I'm gonna be able to get up in there and blow my insulation in better. Got all the Tyvek in. We got the birds. They finally got their babies and taken care of and out. So we put Tyvek up in there. So it's been a few weeks since I've been out here working. So I'm starting to put it up. As you see, I'm putting up some OSB on the ceiling up here now. I've got one sheet up so far. I hate cutting around the boxes. That's why I don't like doing sheetrock either. So cutting around the boxes stink, and I have a ton of them up here in the ceiling. But so I got one sheet up here. Using a drywall lift, just setting them on top of there, wheeling them right up to the ceiling, and pounding them in. It's working out good with the first one. So I think we're gonna come across, get this next one in here. So I'll have my first light, and I had to take all the lights down as well. So I'll come across, get that one in, and then I think I'll come over here. I'm gonna do half the garage at a time, then I'll move stuff around so I can get the rest of it done. So I'll get that one in. That'll give me, the first 3, and then I'll just work my way down here. So once I get a little bit further along, I'll bring it back in and we'll show you what we got. Thanks, man. All right, guys. So I've got the ceiling all installed. I've got a few trap doors I got to finish putting those in. Got them cut out. Just got to make the door still. But we got the ceiling up. Next step now is to get the blown in insulation in. So this is going to end this portion. I think the next part I'll bring it back. I'll have the blown in insulation done in the attic part of it, the ceiling part of it, and the walls. And then we'll move on to putting up some batten strips on it to seal it off, and then paint it. And then we're going to do some more trim work in here. But this is where I'm going to end the second portion of this video of the shop upgrades. So if you like what you saw, if you learned anything, or have some comments for me, leave them down below. If you would, give me a like and a subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Turn on the notification bell. If you would, go ahead and subscribe. But yeah, let me walk you around. I'll show you what we got in here. All right, so you can see got OSB up on all the ceiling. Got my cutouts in. It might be a little dark in here, obviously. I had to take all my lights down to get this put back together. You can see I got a few jags in here. They didn't line up quite right. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put a trim boards up over top of those to cover those up and square it up, and I can paint it all. I'm gonna paint the ceilings white. Like I said, there's one of the trap doors to get up into the attic, and here's another one. I figure with those up in there, it'd be easier to blow insulation, do the blowing in insulation back into the corners, and then I can do into the middle here, and then this side I can get up here much easier. So like I said, that's where we're gonna end this video. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks a lot.